There's big news out of Fort Collins as Larry Eustachey saga has come to an end for the Colorado State men's basketball team. I'm Sydney Wicker.
And I'm Brian Buck, here to keep you updated on what has been a very eventful day at CSU. CSU men's basketball coach Larry Eustachey, who was placed on administrative leave on February 3rd, has officially stepped down from his position as head coach. CSU Athletics announced this afternoon that former coach Eustachey resigned under the terms of a negotiation that will pay him a total of $750,000 over the next 3 years in $250,000 increments yearly. Eustachey was placed on administrative leave this season during an investigation into the coach's conduct towards his players after players' parents had conversations with athletic director Joe Parker about a culture of fear in the program. Coach Eustachey had a similar investigation in the 2013-14 season, but was not placed on leave at the time and was kept on. This investigation was kept quiet until the Coloradoan found the report in February of last year, but athletic director Joe Parker and university president Tony Frank stood by the decision to keep on Eustachey in the 13-14 season. Following last year's second-place finish in the Mountain West Conference, CSU showed confidence in Eustachey by signing the coach to a 3-year contract extension this past summer. The extension would have run through the 2020-21 season and paid him $985,000 this season. The decision to terminate Larry was made on February 8th and was first reported by Matt L. Stevens of the Denver Post, but the dollar amount was still up for debate. Athletic director Joe Parker had this to say about the release of Coach Eustachey. I am grateful for the contributions Coach Eustachey has made to the Colorado State men's basketball program and for the time we have worked together. In Eustachey's tenure as a head coach, he took the Rams to the NCAA tournament in his first season, where the Rams notched a victory versus the Missouri Tigers. He also took them to 2 NIT berths. The Rams had 3 20-win seasons in just 6 years under Coach Eustachey. He will leave Colorado State tied with Stu Merrill for second in career wins as head coach at Colorado State with a record of 121-74.
All right, Brian, I know there is a lot of negative heat on CSU right now, but let's break down the Yahoo article that was released on Friday about some of the other NCAA teams.
Yeah, well, we might have a little bit of a coaching problem, but some of these schools have a lot bigger of a problem. Right now, there's a big investigation into a lot of money that's been going from Andy Miller's ASM group into players, both at the high school and collegiate level. Some big names like Dennis Smith from North Carolina, who received above $43,000. Number 1 overall pick in last year's NBA draft, Markelle Fultz, who received $10,000 while at the University of Washington. And Kentucky superstar Bam Adebayo, who received at least $12,000. These guys were noted as receiving money in the investigation that's being conducted by the FBI. Yahoo was able to obtain these documents and report on all the players that have received money, and the list goes on and on. We're not sure how deep it runs yet, but big names like Sean Miller, the head coach at Arizona, was part of this FBI investigation and was recently caught on a wiretap telling somebody to give Arizona recruit DeAndre Ayton $100,000, which is a pretty big amount of money, to get Ayton to come to Arizona. Since Miller has stepped down at the head coach as the head coach at Arizona, but Ayton continues to play basketball for the Wildcats.
I mean, I know there's teams like Alabama, Michigan State, Duke, North Carolina, all in this mess, but March Madness is right around the corner. How do you think this is going to affect them?
Well, it's going to be really interesting because one of those schools you mentioned, Michigan State, and their star player, Miles Bridges, has already actually undergone the NCAA sanctions and suspensions that he was required to go through, and he's back from suspension just a couple days later. But other players like Arizona's DeAndre Ayton has yet to go on suspension, and it's unclear if he will. Some players like San Diego State's Malik Pope, who received $1,400, is on suspension now, and we don't know how long he will be on suspension. So it's going to be really interesting to see which players go on suspension, when the NCAA steps in and forces suspensions, and if teams make the tournament. And one thing I'm interested in is if the committee changes their judgment of the basketball teams based on who was suspended, who wasn't suspended, and who received funds.
Yes, for sure. I know with any teams like this is going to draw a lot of attention, so it's kind of a positive that's taken off of CSU. But I know for teams like Louisville, they were stripped of their 2013 title last week. I mean, what do you think is going to be the end result for this? Because if they're already stripping away titles, what do you think will be the overall ending?
Louisville got their title stripped as a result of a 2-year investigation into some slightly different recruiting violations involving parties and some illicit activities. These are a little bit different, but that gives us a kind of a timetable for how long this might take. With the FBI investigating not just the NCAA, who knows how long it's going to take for the FBI to be done with their investigation and then to provide the information to the NCAA. We don't really know when this is going to end, and one thing that lends towards why not knowing is we don't know how deep this goes. Right now we only have a list of a few names. It could be a lot more.
Yes, for sure, but hopefully this will be taken care of very shortly, but thank you so much for filling us in on that. It definitely could be a lot worse for CSU, but let's turn away from that and talk about the women's basketball team, who's actually in some good hands right now. On Saturday, I was able to break down all that happened on senior night for the women's basketball team with Tara Barrio. Tara, let's break this game down and talk about all that happened for the Rams tonight. I know in the first half the Rams were down pretty much the entire game, but it was a close battle no matter what. We could say that about this entire game. But coming out of the locker room, they were fired up, ready to play some basketball. Let's talk about the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what Coach Ryan Williams had to say to his team during halftime, but whatever he said definitely put a spark in the girls because they came out on fire in the second half. 2 players in particular who stood out tonight, Hannah Taverty and Candy Brady. Hannah Taverty always being a key player for the Rams. One player in particular who stood out and was just unstoppable tonight was Annie Brady, scoring 21 points and having 11 rebounds. She had a double-double.
That was incredible to see her step up and take a role with all these seniors out here tonight, so that was super awesome to see her step up for that. I know the Rams did have a 48.3% shooting percentage in tonight's game, while Nevada had 42.1. Those are 2 totally close numbers. Like, you can just tell from that that was a battle alone.
Yeah, definitely a battle tonight. And I like how we're saying battle because the aggression in tonight's game, I know we're going to see aggression in every Mountain West game, but tonight I feel like the aggression was just out of control. Like, it was awesome how great and how hard the girls were fighting. 2 girls who stood out to me with that aggression was Sophie Tygeson and
you said aggression there because they did go up against players for Nevada like Kamariah King, who had scored 16 points for them and unfortunately was not able to stop the Rams. But I mean, we just saw them going up against every single player tonight, and that was huge for them, and that's what essentially gave them the victory, 75-64.
Yeah, and what a special night it was for the Rams as well as it was their senior night. Let's talk about that. How emotional did you feel? Because I know I'm here. I was very emotional. I know for a fact that there was no dry eye in the house tonight.
Yes, for sure. I like how you say emotional because I definitely did get a little teary-eyed watching this tonight, especially being with this team this entire season, watching them compete game after game. I know for players like Hannah Traverty, Veronica Merkovich, and Stina Oskulin, this night meant a lot to them. And seeing Coach Williams giving them all a hug and just appreciating them for their season, that was incredible. I think that was something amazing and something this team will remember forever, especially the standing ovation from the crowd. It just made it all more special.
Yeah, in those last few seconds of the fourth quarter, the 3 seniors being subbed out and just hugging their teammates, hugging Coach Ryan Williams, like you said, you could just see the chemistry that this team has and just how much it affects their performance and how, like, it makes them such a successful team, and that is why they're such a successful team, is because they have that chemistry and they feed off each other and they know what they want and they just get along so great. And I think that's just what makes this team unbelievable.
Yes, for sure. This family bond is something I think this team will remember forever, and hopefully we can see them carry that into next season. I know the Rams only have 1 more game left where they will be taking on New Mexico at New Mexico on Tuesday at 7, and then they'll be heading on to the Mountain West tournament, so hopefully we can see them compete well there. With a final victory in Moby, Coach Ryan Williams said, "Those guys, they've worked so hard, and they've been so fun this season. They are just very welcoming and loving, and to get a win with them in their last game in Moby, that's how we wanted to send them out." Thank you, Tara Barrio, for joining me on Saturday.
The Colorado State men's basketball team played 2 games this past week. They lost both, but showed signs of growth under interim head coach Jace Hurl, who coached just his 3rd and 4th Division I basketball games of his career. After a loss to Boise State on Wednesday, the Rams traveled to Reno to take on Nevada, the top team in the Mountain West Conference. The Rams lost 92-83, but improved over their Wednesday performance against Boise. The Rams shot 41% from 3 and out-rebounded the Wolfpack of Nevada, 43-42, but it was Nevada's ball movement that killed Colorado State, as the Wolfpack had 23 assists and just 7 turnovers in the game. Standout Rams players recorded some exciting milestones Sunday, with Nico Carvacho becoming the 6th Ram to record 300 rebounds in a season as part of his 11th double-double in just 17 conference games. Carvacho is having a great sophomore year, averaging 12.5 rebounds and 11.5 points in conference this season. Prentice Nixon also had an important milestone, sinking his 1,000th career point. Nixon is just the 28th player in CSU history to reach that mark. He's just a junior, and a strong senior season could establish him as one of the best scorers in CSU history, as he has averaged 14.2 points per game in his last 2 seasons. Colorado State men's basketball has 1 game remaining in the regular season, a home game against New Mexico, on Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Moby Arena. They will then travel to Las Vegas for the Mountain West Conference tournament that will be held between March 7th and 10th. The Rams have already secured the 10 seed after losing both games versus Air Force, and will face whoever finishes the conference as the 7 seed at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time on Wednesday, March 7th.
That's all I have for you right now, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back from break, we'll have some more spring sports updates and an inside look at CSU's figure skating team.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Track and field finished up their indoor season this week, where CSU was able to take 2nd in the Mountain West overall. Outstanding performances were from athletes like Mustafa Hussain, who threw a 67-8. Cole Rockhold also was able to help the Rams by running the mile in 4 minutes and 2 seconds, where he was almost able to break CSU's top time of 3 minutes and 58 seconds, but will remain in 2nd for CSU's all-time record. Rockhold also finished 2nd in the meet overall. For the hurdles, Jalen Hunter placed 2nd in the men's 60-meter with a time of 8.04 seconds, and Destiny Rocker was able to place 3rd for the women's hurdles with a time of 8.37 seconds. The indoor national qualifiers will be released in 2 weeks, and track and field will now start preparing for their outdoor season, which will begin on March 30th.
Over the weekend, I was able to check in with the figure skating team and see what they were all about. I was able to also get out on the ice and try it for myself.
For the Fort Collins figure skating team, they got started about 8 years ago, but for many of the skaters, they've been skating since before they could walk.
I have been skating since I was 3 years old, so I've been skating for 17 years, and this is my first year on the CSU figure skating team.
The club got started so that skaters at CSU could compete at intercollegiate levels and skate with skaters with similar interests.
It has been amazing. It's great to be in a group of people who have similar backgrounds, and therefore we're able to instantly connect in such a big university like Colorado State.
The team comes out to learn new moves and to skate freely, but one skater was able to skate with Disney on Ice, and she was able to talk about her honor that came along with being able to skate with them.
It was an amazing experience in a whirlwind. It was so cool to be able to perform at that high a level, perform for thousands of people every single day, and do what I love for a job. Nice, that's awesome.
The team does take in people of all levels and loves to see and teach others new tricks and twists.
I don't really care so much about keeping up with others as myself moving forward.
For many of the skaters, this sport is more than just about going out and spinning around on the ice.
It's kind of like an escape, sort of. It's like when I'm stressed at school or like having issues with anyone, I can just come skate and not worry about anything or like anyone, and it's just like really nice. And I met some of my best friends through the team, like Heather and True. They're some of my best friends, so it's been awesome just meeting people and having that escape.
Not only was I able to learn a little bit more about figure skating, but I was also able to go out and try it with a few of the skaters.
I'm out here on the ice with Katie, and she's going to take me skating for my first time with the figure skating team. Let's get started. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
You did very well for not having been on the ice before.
You did amazing, honestly. Like, you did so well. You only fell like 3 times. Your lunge was amazing, so yeah, good job.
Thank you to the figure skating team for letting me be a part of their practice.
That's all we have for you tonight. Don't forget to check out collegian.com to keep up to date on CSU basketball as they head to Las Vegas for the Mountain West Conference Tournament. Have a good night, Rams.